Try to wrap up the preparation here. We're going to do one thing really quick. I'm going to transition back one more time onto the screen here. We're going to download ethOS and configure it for the hard drive here. We're going to basically burn the image onto this hard drive that I put together in that parts list. And here's that cable matters tool. It's just a dock. This goes in there like so. I guess I'll demonstrate if you can see from my desk. I'm taking the hard drive and I'm placing it in like so. You can see it says Kingston. There it is. So it just slides right in there. Front facing Kingston. And it slips on there. So it'll be docked. And then I'll plug it in over here. We'll see it once I jump on screen. We'll get it configured here. But just have that plugged into the USB of whatever iMac laptop or PC, whatever you're using. Just have that plugged in, ready to go. But we'll jump on to the next part of this. And if for whatever reason my demonstration isn't clear, I'm going to point you over to another gentleman I've seen online. His name's BitsBeTrippin on Twitter, as it's spelled or said, B-I-T-S-B Trippin, BitsBeTrippin. I'll mention him on Twitter and wherever I can on the gist. But anyway, he's got a pretty good demonstration on how to do this. And I basically am doing this from what I've learned off of him from the ethOS install. But anyway, let's go ahead and transition back onto my screen here on my desktop, and we'll go from there. We'll finish this up, and we'll get to mining. I get to going over here with the GPU Shack download of ethOS. And what you'll do is you'll go ahead and go over here. You'll purchase it, add to cart, purchase it as you would any other transaction that's out there on the internet. You'll then get an email. In this email, you'll get a download link, like so down here, and you'll click on that download link, and below this email, again, I'll refer back to that message. Below it, and I don't want to go too far below, but you'll get a username and you'll get a password. Everyone will have the same username. It's ethOS, and then the password will be different for everybody. So I'm going to shove this aside and close out just so I don't get any annoying notifications. One more time, 1 second. I'm going to copy paste the password. Okay, and close out of that now. And I'm going to acknowledge everything on the license agreement. They do want you to buy or purchase one license agreement per rig, and I have done so. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Acknowledge, click on that link. You'll hit download, and of course that will download. It should. You should get a username and password window. If you do get that, just enter in the ethOS within the window. There'll be like a window. It'll say enter in a username and password, enter in ethOS, and then your corresponding password in the email. Pretty straightforward. In this case, since I've already done it before and I was preparing for this tutorial, I didn't need to enter in that username and password. So I'm going to go ahead and wait for this download. And we're going to go do this. I'm going to do the ethOS image burn onto the hard drive in both Mac and Windows. It's a little different. I presume most of y'all may be using Mac, but if you are using Windows, I'm going to go ahead and do Windows as well. It's actually easier in Windows, so take that in mind. So anyway, let's go ahead and dump that to the desktop. That should be the name of the compressed file you'll download from ethOS. I'll X out to there. And one other thing you're going to want to download if you're a Mac user, go to the App Store, please, and download the Unarchiver. And again, this will be referenced in the gist corresponding at the bottom of this tutorial on YouTube. You want to download the Unarchiver, open it, and you should have this file should have a default path or opening with the application, the Unarchiver, or just hit open with, and it should be the Unarchiver default. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and double click this. And again, I don't mean to confuse anybody here, but once this is finished, I'm going to copy and paste this over to another desktop, another instance that I've spun up on my MacBook. I can pull it up virtually on my desktop. I don't mean to get too fancy with anybody here, but I want to keep that environment separate just so I have the SATA box connected to it and the hard drive here. So you want to get this Kingston hard drive out next while this is all extracting and going from there. So again, just assume this is now downloading to a or your Mac desktop right now. So assume that it's extracting now, and I'm going to copy those files over to another Mac desktop because this is connected to my SATA Cable Matters hard drive dock. So again, it's because of the way my environment's configured out here for this tutorial, I have to keep things separate. So bear that in mind. I apologize if that's somewhat confusing. So give me 1 second here while it's finishing. One thing to note, this method with Mac, it's actually slower and it's a little bit more difficult. It's easier to do in Windows, go figure. So that's a little strange to me as a Mac user. But anyway, let's go ahead and let this go. Okay, so I'm going to copy and paste. Don't worry about this for what I'm doing right now. Just disregard the next 2 steps I'm doing. I'm going to go over to my other instance over here, and I'm going to copy and paste. So I've already copied and pasted these files. And again, just assume that that this desktop over here is what I have just done with y'all. I've downloaded that image file, the ethOS image file, and unarchived it to my desktop over here. It's another laptop that I'm using. So I'm just remotely dialed into it. So anyway, the next thing you're going to do is hit Command Spacebar, okay? And pull up Terminal. Hit Command Spacebar, type in Terminal. Finder, like I said, Terminal, and type in Terminal. You want to pull up Terminal. So then you're going to copy and paste the following commands. I'm going to copy in, and one thing I want to do just for the sake of thoroughness here, I want to make sure this is clean. Whatever, even if you get a brand new one, make sure the hard drive you're going to burn the image onto, the ethOS image, make sure it's clean. So I'm going to connect this first into the dock. That dock should be connected to your iMac, or your Mac, or Windows. I'm going to say in this instance it's connected to my Mac. Okay, and then I'm going to fire up the disk utility. Of course it is, because I've already burned another disk on there. Okay, so I'm going to click on that external hard drive, the dock, and I'm going to hit erase. And I'm going to make sure it's exFAT32, and I'm going to call it Kingston. And I'll hit erase. Okay, so that's going to erase, and it should be clean. Again, this is best practice. I'm going to eject it. Okay. All right. I'm going to unplug it, and then I'm going to plug it back in. Okay. Again, you're not going to see this window because chances are you're not running a virtual environment, but just assume that this is connected now to your Mac. Okay. So it's now connected to my Mac. I'm then going to run the following commands over here. You see them, and this will be outlined again in that gist provided. Okay. I'm going to copy and paste. Just copy and paste as if they were in that gist. I'll outline it again in the gist, but then copy and paste that over. Okay. And then you'll run disk util list, and that should pull up that Kingston right here. See that Kingston? So note that it says dev disk2, that's the path, and then also the identifiers are disk2 and disk2s1. The next, we're gonna want to dismount or unmount this device. So I'm gonna copy and paste that. Again, that might be different for your environment or whatever you're using the Mac on this. On your computer, but just note that this Kingston says disk2s1, so just it corresponds structurally there. So then I'm going to hit copy paste, okay, and then I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to enter in my password that I used to sign into my Mac. Okay, now it's unmounted. Then I'm going to copy and paste this command. Okay, copy it and then paste it over. And again, I'm just doing everything for the sake of thoroughness. And you can see here it's disk2, that's that identifier. That identifier should line up there with your device we're referencing, okay, that path. And then that image file, like the one we've unarchived from ethOS, it's pointing to this file. It's referencing this file over here that we've double-clicked that image, the archived download we downloaded from ethOS, right? We downloaded this file, and then we unarchived it with the unarchiver, and now this new file now is on the desktop over on your Mac after you did all that, right? So then after we did all that, we've already done that before, right? We're just going to go ahead and hit enter with this command. It's now going to burn that image from the desktop here in Mac onto this device over here. Now bear in mind, this takes, I got a good 5 or 10 minutes. I've tested this methodology. It's a little bit slower. It's actually significantly slower than what we do in Windows here. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this, let it finish, And then we're going to do the same thing in Windows. I want to kind of go ahead and show everyone how to do the same thing in Windows if you're using Windows. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this, and we'll transition into Windows. All right, folks, let's just pretend that for a moment you downloaded that ethOS into your Windows desktop. And again, lucky for you, it's actually easier to do in Windows. So take that hard drive, okay? Stick it into that Cable Matters SATA dock, okay? And we're going to format this disk. If it prompts here, okay, connect to Windows this time, okay? I'm going to connect it to Windows, and then I'm going to go to the disk formatter. Format is the name of it. Yeah, there we go. All right, and we're going to reference this one. I just know it's this in this case. And I'm going to go ahead and hit delete volume. Yes. And again, I'm just making sure that's clean. There is an easier way to do that, but it should be clean now. And again, just for the sake of thoroughness, I'm going to now dismount it, mount it one more time. Make sure that's registering with Mac. Pardon me. Whoops. Now that's connected to Windows. Again, assume you downloaded that ethOS to your desktop in Windows. You need two applications to make this happen in Windows. You need the HDD raw copy tool and 7-zip. You can download this. Again, I'll reference these in this gist. This gist will be elaborated. You'll see more instructions here momentarily, or at least when I release this on YouTube. It should be on May 9th. So once that's finished, okay, I'm going to go ahead and pull up 7-zip within Windows. Okay, and we're going to extract that file to the desktop. So I'm going to select that file 131.img.xz, what we downloaded from ethOS, the website, extract it. And I'm just going to hit select it, OK. Everything like this. Everything looks good. I'm going to hit OK. That should take a few minutes. So let that extract to the desktop. And after that, we're going to use HDD raw copy tool to burn that image onto the hard drive here. So let's let that go. And you can see it's this file here. That's what's going on. It's that desktop. It's that ethOS 131. Okay. That should be ready to go now, and it's in that folder. So, okay, it's in that 131.img folder. Okay, so then after we get out of here, I'm going to go ahead and find the HD raw copy tool, and I'm going to hit yes. Okay, and then I'm going to select the image file. You do that by, I'm just going to, for the sake of thoroughness here, I'm going to show everybody where that's at. Again, that's once we extracted that file, it's going to be in a folder, should be. I'm going to double click that. It's going to be that 131. It should be about 5 gigabytes. Open that up. Okay, select that as the source file, and the target is going to be that Azimuth USB drive 120, assuming that you have this hard drive connected by USB. So go ahead and hit continue. It's going to burn that image onto the target. And this should take about 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and hit start. It'll warn you about, yeah, you want to proceed to override everything. I'm going to hit yes. This should take about 3 minutes tops. But once that's finished, you're going to go ahead and unplug it. One final thing we're going to do while that's going, I'm going to wait here. I don't want to get ahead of myself too much, but if you look over here, we're going to go over to the ASRock page, the H110 Pro BTC. That's the motherboard. Remember that? We're going to download the latest update, and that's really not too hard to do. And again, this will be referenced on this gist. That's that file there, that link there. It's going to point you over here. you're going to scroll down and you're going to find the most recent version or BIOS update that's available. It'll be instant flash. That's what you want. And you're going to select global. So in that case, look, it's version 1.6. Most recent date is 4/13/18. The instant flash, that's what you want. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, okay? Hit global, and then I'll download to your desktop, wherever that is. And again, I'm just doing that while we're waiting here, while that's burning. So you can do this in the same desktop, whatever you're doing right now. I'm going to go ahead and pick this USB drive now. It's just any USB drive is 16 gigabytes. Only. And I'm going to plug it into the back of my Mac here. Could be Windows or Mac, whichever you want. Okay. Never plug this in right. My Mac. There we go. Okay. Let's pull up the disk utility if you're in Mac. And I'm going to refer to that flyer device. It's any USB device. It's the name of it. I'm going to go ahead and hit erase. Use exFAT, erase. Okay. It's going to format. Okay. And then once that's finished. Okay. Now that this hard drive now is finished. Remember we burned that ISO, that ethOS. It's finished now. So I'm going to go ahead and just minimize this and actually unmount it. It's ready. So that I'm just going to set that to the side. So now that that's finished, right, I'm going to go back to that mFlyer device, and I'm going to pull up that download, that H1 Pro BTC. Assuming you're in Mac, you're just going to want to double-click that. It's a regular decompressed file, and it's going to come up like that. It'll say H1, H11B, TCP16. So it's a executable instant flash file. You're just drag and drop it into your USB device. Nothing fancy there, okay? So that's finished. I'm just going to go ahead and delete these files now, clean them up. And I'm going to eject my mFlyer device, the USB device. So I'm going to set these off to the side. Now we'll go back downstairs in the mining shaft, as I like to call it, the Bucephalus Deb interim stable, in a moment. So set these to the side. Okay, that's finished. And one final thing to grab here. We are going to be mining, right? And it's going to need, that mining device is going to need a wallet to point to. So I'm going to pull up my wallet one more time for the sake of thoroughness. Plug it back into my Mac. Okay. I'm going to go to that address, wallet.trezor.io. I'm going to enter in my password as it displayed on my device. Okay. We're going to go here. I'm going to go to that My Ether wallet. Remember, it's just a recap of everything. Going there. Exit out of that. And we're going to select Trezor. Again, this is all review. I'm going to select this top address. So I'm going to note that. I'm just going to copy and paste it. And I'm going to set it over in a text file just so I can refer to that later. I'm going to type it. I'm going to type it out when we get to the command line over on ethOS. You'll see what I'm talking about when we go back down to the mine shaft, as I like to call it, as I said. So I'm just putting this in a text editor over here. That's all I'm doing. I'm going to save that just wherever on your desktop. Just save it, set it to the side. Just note it down. I'm going to reference that one. It's going to be whatever shows up there. Just reference that. That's going to be the receiving hex key address, the receiving Ether wallet address that all of your mining is going to go to. So, okay, that's where it's going to be. But I'm going to go ahead and unlock it. Doesn't necessarily need anything. That shows you my balance here. So, anyway, just recapping that. We'll be good to go, folks. Stand by, and we will now transition into the next slide, which will be you will be sitting side shotgun or shotgun with me as we configure ethOS. So, enjoy. All right, folks, if you're with me up to this point, let's go over this and just go ahead and fire it up. I'm assuming at this point you know exactly how to connect all ports and your keyboards for this install. So the first thing we're going to do is turn on the rig. I'm going to turn it on, as I've demonstrated before. And then I'm going to continuously hit the F2 key until we see the BIOS prompt. That's just going to be a user interface prompting us to configure some BIOS settings. So I'm going to keep hitting F2 until we see it. Again, it's the F2 key. And if you don't see it, on the disconnect and reconnect the HDMI cable from the monitor. Sometimes that helps. And like it did. Okay, perfectly. So I just did that. And okay, so there's a toolbar up top. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to hit Tool. And then we're going to select Instant Flash. You double click this, see where my arrow is. It's going to go right for that toolbar, or that Instant Flash highlight. I'm going to double click that. And that's going to contain the BIOS update we downloaded from the ASRock H110 website that we unarchived or unzipped on our Macs, and we then took that BIOS modification, that BIOS file update, and then upload it to that drive. One thing I want to clarify, make sure you format that USB drive for FAT32 or MS-DOS. MS-DOS, FAT32, that's how you would format that first. Format that USB drive for FAT32 or MS-DOS before you upload that unarchived or unzipped file from the ASRock H110 file. I demonstrated that before, but I don't think I clarified how to format that USB drive. I think I may have mistakenly formatted it for exFAT, but again, make sure it's FAT32 MS-DOS. Then upload that file. That's unzipped or unarchived. After that, this is the point you'd be at. You'd be using that USB drive. You'd plug it into your build or your motherboard there, as I demonstrated before in another transition. Go ahead and double click this, and it'll automatically find that file on that USB drive. Make sure you don't have any other files in that drive, just for the sake of clarity. Anything else contained on that USB drive, because then it'll automatically find it like so. Go ahead and hit update. This will take about 2 minutes. It'll say, do you want to update UEFI to H? Okay, don't touch anything. Again, I apologize for the crudity of this demonstration. It's really a problem with the builds. I haven't found a better way to optimize for multimedia yet. These minor rigs really aren't great for multimedia environments. But if you get into Windows, which we will in the part 3 of this series, I might try to do some sort of a screencast there. But again, it's really not much I can do in a BIOS setting like this. Okay, it's programming success. Excellent. Press enter to reboot the system. One more thing I'm going to do, I'm going to caution you all to do that again. Keep hitting F2 until you see that BIOS update one more time. And we're going to reconfigure the boot drive setup. And then you're going to select on the top right, it says boot over here. Select boot on that toolbar, and then make sure on boot option 1 up here, it says SATA 3 or SATA whatever connection you're using. It says SATA Kingston. That's the hard drive that contains this hard drive. That's how you go like there. And I'm not going to do any BIOS hacks or mods. I'm going to save that for part 3 where we strap the cards for overclocking. I'll do some demonstrations there what we can do in the BIOS to sort of optimize the build for optimal hash rates, but we'll save that again later. So then after that we've done that, hit exit. Might be a little sluggish. yeah, exit out of that. I'm gonna hit exit. Okay, then save changes and exit. Okay, and now ethOS will basically load automatically, it should. And we'll transition into the next slide with ethOS, but I'll leave this here for now. The first thing I'll do is hit mind stop when we enter ethOS. Excellent, so it's pulling up ethOS. Okay, we see ethOS pop up. I'm gonna hit right click desktop. You can just refer to your right screen. I'm just doing that just for this tutorial, just getting the desktop set up. I'm gonna hit mind stop. M-I-N-E-S-T-O-P, that stops everything. And we'll transition to the next slide and I'll show you what's going on after this. All right, folks, if you're joining me now, I'm gonna go ahead and reboot it again. ethOS, we got the BIOS set up. I hit mind stop on the first time around again, but I'm just gonna do this again for the sake of thoroughness. I'm rebooting the build. Just hitting the reboot button, or just basically powering off the build and then just restarting it. So here we go. And again, I really apologize for the crudity of the demonstration here, but I don't have these builds configured for multimedia. I'm going to see what I can do in the third part of this series with Microsoft, since we're going to be using that. But bear with me here as we boot it up. Okay, so I'm going to hit mind stop so I can hear myself, and I'm going to pop up the second desktop. So again, type in mind stop, all one string or one word, M-I-N-E-S-T-O-P, and then the first thing I'm going to do is change your password. Change your password, type in P-A-S-S-W-D. And you'll be prompted to enter in a new password. The default password for all first-time installs is live, L-I-V-E. I've already changed my password, so it's going to say the password's incorrect. But after you type in live, it'll ask you to type in a new password and then re-enter it to confirm. So anyway, once that's over with, go ahead and do it that way. The next command, we're going to update ethOS. So it's going to be sudo space ethos /update. I'm sorry, not / hyphen update. Okay. And we'll go type that in. And then after it finishes updating, we're going to sudo reboot. Okay, sudo reboot. Again, I'm going to right click and hit the window so we can all see this big screen possible here. One moment, please. So you'll see the command line window pop up in the bottom right of your screen. Generally, you should. Again, I'm just only right-clicking and hitting desktop 2 to bring the terminal or command line window in a bigger view, so it's optimal for this demonstration. Okay, so the next command is sudo ethOS update miners. That sort of updates all of the whatever is on ethOS, basically upgrades the onboard GPUs that we have. Update miners, sudo update. Actually, first thing you want to do is hit mine stop, and then do that. Sudo ethOS dash update, sudo update, sorry. Sudo update hyphen miners. And I'll have all these commands in that gist below this. It'll be in the description field within YouTube. You'll see these commands in a gist, basically a web page that contains the instructions of what to do. So sudo update miners. And after that, we'll reboot one more time, and then we'll modify the local config file and the remote config file. Okay, one more time, sudo reboot. Okay, bring the terminal window in view one more time. Okay, there it is. And next we're gonna go ahead and edit that remote conf file. So hit vi space remote.conf. And there'll be some text up here. Make sure you just delete all this text. I've already done this before for the sake of the demonstration. Delete all of that and hit escape, shift, colon. So you're just hitting the colon key and then X. So you just want to hit escape colon X. That writes the file. I'm going to go ahead and shut down the miners once again because I can't hear myself. And now we're going to edit that local config file for mining. So that's vi-local.conf. And you'll see these in the gist. It's vi again space local.conf. That's how you get into this file here. So the first thing we're going to do is configure the wallet. There'll be a proxy wallet. You'll make it appear like so. You can make it exactly appear like mine. Delete all the text. There is a default wallet key that's there already. Go ahead and delete that, and then start typing in your wallet, your hex key. And that hex key was, remember, we created that with the Trezor wallet, that MyEther wallet recipient key. Make sure you type that in, the recipient address. Type that there. That's mine. It's going to be unique to me and different from yours. Type it all the way in, and then hit dot, and then you'll name the worker. I named the convention. You can maybe use baseball teams or football players or football teams. I don't know, something, whatever you want to do. But Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know. So anyway, hit dot, and then type in the worker name like I did at this demonstration. I called it Bucephalus. And then /, and then your email address you want to have to receive notifications. I have mine, info@bucephalus.io. I typed that in there. Great. Okay. Next thing is the wallet addresses. Proxy pool 1 is eth-us-east1.nanopool.org 999. If you're going to follow my tutorial here, that's what you're going to want to do. After that, same deal there. Proxy pool 2 eth-us-west1.nanopool.org 9999. Again, same deal there. And again, this will be detailed in that gist. A couple other hacks we can do while we're here. Just And again, if you want to write in here, you have to hit the insert key. So I'm going to hit the insert key and I'm going to write in the following: Global Core 1200. These are overclocking conditions that I found to be pretty good for the RX 580s. Global Core 1200. Oops, Core 1200. Global mem. It's hard for me to type around this camera. Global mem 2175. And then global fan 90. You can just leave the global fan at 85 up there. See, like that. Okay, and then so you've modified your build configurations here. So anyway, same deal there with the escape key, colon, X. So that's again a shift key, colon X. You're hitting, basically want to hit escape, colon X. That's what you want to do. Enter, and then now we'll be able to start overclocking. So now it's sudo, sudo ethOS, pardon me, I want to make sure that's right, sudo ethOS dash overclock. Yeah, you want to reboot this after you do that, so I'm going to reboot one more time. And after that, I'll enter the same thing again. Sudo ethOS dash overclock. And if you want to get those commands, the best way to sort of recover them quickly is just hit the top arrow, and that'll go through your command line history. So I'll wrap it up here and we'll be good to go, folks. We'll transition, and the last slide I'll do one more desktop screencast of how to configure the payment schedule or payout schedule with Nanopool, and go from there. I'm going to do the minimum denomination, which is 0.2 Ether, and go from there. Last time, I'll get the different view up for y'all. Desktop 2 terminal. I'll scroll up to get that last key, sudo ethOS dash overclock. And we should be good to go. You'll hear your fan spin up. You can hear that faint in the background, and go from there. So again, folks, let's transition to the last slide of me on the desktop here. We'll go in to configure the Nanopool settings, and we'll be done, and you'll be ready to go for mining. Thank you. All right, folks, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Go ahead and pull up that URL up here. That's https://eth.nanopool.org/account/your hex key. And in my case, that was the Ether wallet we had set up, that recipient address. So that's what we had used. Remember, we had configured that in the config file for ethOS. So now we're good to go with Nanopool. Everything is reading out here. We're getting a hash rate. It's positive here. Currently, right now, it's burning at 119 megahertz a second. And these aren't overclocked yet. These GPUs, this worker, isn't overclocked yet. So we could probably max this out. It was topping out, let's see, at about 150, 153. We might be able to get to 180 or 190, which will be a pretty good burn for 6 on these RX 580 GPUs. So anyway, that's the worker name. Remember, it was the hex decimal, that address, worker name, and that was, so this was that hex key .bucephalus, and it's /info@bucephalus.io. So if there are any changes or modifications, like let's say your monitor goes offline for whatever reason, you lose a connection or power drops, you'll get an email or a notification. You can, then one thing I would say you could do is change the minimum payout. Try to do 0.2 or 0.25 maybe, and then you confirm this by entering your email that was chained to that hex key. Remember, it was the hex key name. So in my case, it was my hex key address up there, .bucephalus /info@bucephalus.io. So I enter in that email address, that company address. Again, it could be your personal address, whatever you want. And then you hit apply changes. For whatever reason, this is not working right now. For whatever reason, it's incorrect password, but I would wait maybe a day or two. It says you basically have to sort of wait. Maybe the system's not pulling in quite yet. So wait a couple of days maybe. Wait to where you have a minimum payout close to that amount at 0.2 or 0.25 or whatever, and then try to move it off of there. It should work for you. And again, my miner's been going off for less than an hour, about an hour. So that could explain the incorrect password, but that's how you do it. We've obviously set up the config file correctly because Nanopool is registering that miner worker, and it's currently hashing at about 119 megahertz a second. So again, you just go there at settings, you enter in your email that you had changed that worker, enter in the minimum payout, and apply changes, and you're good to go. So that wraps it up, folks. You're mining. Call yourself a miner. We're good to go. I'm going to jump off the screen and give you a little bon voyage here, and then hopefully we'll get into part 3 in the next couple of weeks. I'm thinking maybe mid-May or maybe late May, so we'll see what happens. Okay, folks, congratulations. If you made it through this tutorial sitting shotgun with me as instructed, you should be able to enjoy your new miner. It should be hashing right around 140 megahertz a second, and that's great. So if you really enjoyed this, I am so proud of you for sticking through the tutorial and building your own miner. If you hang tight for, I guess that's going to be the first week of June, I will go ahead and release the final part of this series, Bucephalus Mine Part 3, how to overclock your GPUs. And we'll see how much more of a hash rate we can get per GPU with the mining guide that I've discovered and rolled out. So anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this tutorial. Please stand by for the first week of June, and we'll conclude this series with Part 3. And how to overclock your GPUs. Thanks again, and I hope you enjoyed it.